Hey everyone, it's Nathan with Thrust Flight. If you're new to aviation, learning the different types of pilot certificates can be a little overwhelming. In this video, we'll be breaking down the types of pilot certificates and ratings you can earn as a pilot. To start, let's establish the difference between a certificate and a rating. To oversimplify it, a certificate is a pilot's license, and a rating enables you to do additional cool stuff with the license. Technically speaking, a pilot's license is not proper terminology, and pilots can be sticklers for proper terminology. What many often refer to as a pilot's license is technically called a pilot certificate. A certificate is what gives you your flying privileges. In this video, we'll be breaking down the student pilot certificate, the sport pilot certificate, private certificate, commercial certificate, flight instructor certificate, and finally the ATP certificate. As the name implies, the student pilot certificate is strictly for students training to obtain either a sport or private cert. It is needed if you want to fly solo. Some requirements to acquire the certificate include being at least 16 years of age for an airplane or 14 years of age for a glider or balloon, and you must be proficient in English. The sport pilot certificate allows you to fly a light sport aircraft with some limitations. You can only fly with one passenger. You can only fly light sport aircraft specifically, and you may not fly at night. Now, what attracts most people to this certificate is that it's the only certificate that does not need a medical, only a driver's license. The private pilot certificate is the foundation to acquire all other certificates and ratings. Being a private pilot allows you to fly larger aircraft than with the sport, but you cannot fly for commercial purposes. You need at least a third-class medical and should be at least 17 years of age. You also need 35 hours of flight time under Part 141 training and 40 hours under Part 61. Check out the link in the description box below for more information on these requirements. Even though a sports certificate has less requirements than a private pilot certificate, an individual is going to spend the same amount of time and money going for either. The reason for this is that the training for sport and private are almost identical. The commercial certificate can be earned only if you hold your private pilot certificate. The commercial gives you the opportunity to get paid for flying. For this certificate, you need to be at least 18 years of age, have at least a second-class medical, and must have logged 190 hours of total flight time under Part 141 and 250 hours under Part 61. This certificate opens up a world of job opportunities, such as corporate flying, tour guides, crop dusters, and other flying gigs. However, this does not qualify you to fly for an airline. There is another certificate for that, which brings us to your ATP certificate. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, you need to hold an Airline Transport Pilot, or ATP certificate, in order to fly for an airline. This is the main career goal for most pilots. This certificate has the most requirements, such as having a first-class medical, having an instrument rating, completing an Airline Transport Pilot training program, and logging at least 1,500 hours of total flight time. Logging these hours in and of itself is the tedious part of the certificate. To give you a clue, if you're starting this at 0 hours, then it would take you about 2 years to complete, if you were flying full-time. Lastly, let's talk about the flight instructor certificate. This allows you to teach students, hence the word instructor. To become a certified flight instructor, or as we call CFI, you need to hold at least a commercial certificate. It is very common to become a CFI after acquiring your commercial certificate in order to complete the 1,500 flight hours needed for the ATP certification. So, have I lost any of you yet? Well, we're halfway done. Now that I have given you the breakdown of the certificates, let's discuss ratings. Ratings are endorsements that advance the privileges of a certificate. They are very diverse. They include the aircraft category and class rating, type rating, and additional operating privileges. Category is the classification of the aircraft. Some examples of categories are airplane, glider, and helicopter. Depending on the category, there are specific classes. Let's take the airplane category as an example. For this category, you can have a single-engine airplane or multi-engine class. You can also have land or sea class, like a seaplane. All of this information put together indicates how and what you are permitted to fly. One of the most common ratings that pilots obtain is the instrument rating. Obtaining this allows you to fly in a variety of weather conditions. Pilots use two different flight rules known as VFR and IFR to fly their aircraft. VFR stands for Visual Flight Rules and simply means flying the aircraft primarily by sight. IFR stands for Instrument Flight Rules and is used for overcast, bad weather days in which you rely heavily on your instruments. It's way more complicated than this, but we'll leave that for another video. Basically, your instrument rating allows you to fly in IFR conditions. Now let's talk about type. Type is a section broken down further from classes. These refer to specific types of aircraft. For example, under the airplane category, you must receive a specific type rating if the aircraft is over 12,500 pounds, or if the aircraft is a turbojet. These type ratings are listed on the certificates as codes that are designated by the FAA. Now that I've explained certificates and ratings in detail, let's take a look at the information and present it in two real-world examples. For the first example, let's use a common commercial airliner, the Boeing 737. This aircraft is used for airline transport. It is a multi-engine land aircraft that is both over 12,500 pounds and utilizes turbojets. The type rating, according to the FAA, is listed as B-737. So what certificates and ratings would you need to fly this? A pilot would need to have their ATP certificate with an airplane multi-engine land B-737 rating. For a less extreme example, what if you and your friend were flying a Cessna 172 on floats through the fog in Alaska? The Cessna 172 is a single-engine aircraft. In this case, it would be considered a C-class because it's on floats. You are not being paid for this flight. Because there is fog, you need to be rated to fly IFR. For this scenario, you would need to have a private pilot certificate with an airplane single-engine C rating and also be instrument rated. I hope this video was able to give you a better understanding about the different types of certificates and ratings in the airplane category. For Thrust Flight at Addison Airport, I'm Nathan. Take care.